Hello, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. Thank you so much for joining in on today's webinar. Depending on where you're from, I would like to wish you a very good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. The topic of today's webinar is how to budget for an effective security analytics solution. Now, once you hear this topic, the very first question you might have in your mind is, how does the subject of this webinar really help me or my company? Well, I would say that knowing how to budget is highly relevant for any professional in any industry and in any role, not just cybersecurity. Because if you think about it, it's basic economics. You've got scarce resources on the one hand that you need to allocate in the best way possible to fulfill unlimited wants. From an organization's perspective, these scarce resources are the finances that you need to allocate for different important functions. Cybersecurity is an extremely strategic function and needs critical attention and resources so that cyber risk can be reduced. And in case an attack does take place, the cost of the attack can also be reduced. And you can probably very easily understand how good cybersecurity measures can reduce your risk exposure and also decrease costs. But did you know good cybersecurity can also be a revenue or business driver? Yes, you heard that right. Take the retail industry as an example. A study by Capgemini revealed that retailers could increase annual revenue by as much as 5% by investing in effective cybersecurity, and just by making their customers trust them more. And 40% of consumers are willing to spend at least 20% more with retailers they trust. In that same study, it was found that 77% of people rate cybersecurity higher than factors such as pricing when choosing a retailer. So yes, cybersecurity is important, and knowing how to budget for cybersecurity is very important. What is the optimal way to allocate your scarce resources towards cybersecurity? For strong security, you need to invest in an effective security analytics solution, such as a comprehensive SIEM solution that will monitor each and every action in the network. Such a solution should also give timely reports and alerts to stop attackers. In this webinar, we'll go over how you can decide what capabilities you want in your SIEM solution and how much you really need to be spending on it. Now, during this webinar, as we are going ahead, please keep sending me your questions using the questions feature on your webinar panel. At the very end, I'll have some time set aside for Q&A. In case for whatever reason I'm unable to answer your questions today, I'll certainly get back to you by email within 24 hours. By the way, this webinar is being recorded, and you'll all receive a copy of the recording over email soon. So just give us a couple of days, we'll process the recording and we'll be sending it over to you. Well, so now I have already spoken for 3 minutes and I'm yet to introduce myself. My name is Ram Vaidyanathan and I'm a cybersecurity specialist at ManageEngine. I've been with ManageEngine for the last 6 years now. In my role, I get to research about the latest techniques attackers are using against organizations, and I also get to learn from people like you about the ways in which organizations can stop attackers. People like you also give me a lot of insight about how things are developing in the cybersecurity market, and ManageEngine as a company uses this feedback to develop our security solutions. If you'd like to get in touch with me about anything once this webinar is over, that's absolutely fine. My email address is right there on your screen. It's ram.v@manageengine.com. I'd love to hear from you. So at this point of time, what I would like to do is I would like to point you out to a particular ManageEngine website on CyberAwareness. And let me just copy paste this URL on the chat window, and you can access this at your convenience. Just give me a second now. So on this particular website, what you can see is a lot of resources on some of the latest techniques attackers are using to take down organizations. For example, there's an ebook on the snake ransomware, and there are infographics on the same subject. Likewise, you'll also find a lot of resources on some of the cybersecurity best practices. So I'd recommend that each and every one of you just go over this website whenever time permits and just go over all of these resources. So let's go back into the presentation now. So with all of those logistics out of the way, I think it's time to start this webinar. Let's get rolling with the agenda and see what we have in store. We'll start off by talking about the threat landscape in the present times. This will show you why the right cybersecurity solutions are important for your organization. Then we'll discuss the factors that increase the security risk in an organization. After that, we'll see how you can decide what features in a SIEM solution are the most important for your company. Then we'll see how you can allocate the right budget for the right solution. And once we do that, we can look at different pricing options. So let's begin with point number 1 on the agenda, the current threat landscape. Just take a look at this slide right here. According to research published by the European Union Agency for Cybersecurity, or ENISA, the attack surface in cybersecurity continues to expand, especially given the current times when many people have started to adopt work from home. The threat of ransomware is also very clear and present. In fact, one study says that ransomware will increase by 350% over the next 1 year. And one company falls victim to a ransomware attack every 14 seconds. The number of phishing attacks is also continuously growing, and attackers are able to use phishing in order to gain that initial foothold into an organization's network. Another emerging trend we see is what's called the fileless malware. When we talk about traditional malware, a user typically gets a phishing email with an attachment. They click on it, and without their knowledge, a malicious file gets downloaded into memory. It then executes, and the rest, as they say, is history. But with fileless malware, what happens is that no malicious software or file is installed in the victim's machine. It runs off the RAM or directly from memory, and so it never gets into the victim's hard disk. The attackers use trusted applications such as PowerShell to carry out these kinds of attacks, such as fileless malware. So ransomware, phishing, and fileless malware are 3 of the major threats at the current times. When it comes to the cost of a data breach, a study by IBM has identified 3 major causes for a data breach: malicious attacks, system glitches, and human errors. And it's been found that 52% of all data breaches were due to a malicious attack. And the majority of these malicious breaches were caused by compromised credentials, cloud misconfigurations, or a third-party software vulnerability. And then just take a look at this stat right here. This underlines the gravity of the situation. It takes 280 days or more than 9 months to identify and contain an attack. Now, here are some numbers related to costs that we need to ponder over. The average total cost of a breach is as much as $3.86 million, which you can see in 2020 right here. In case an organization has adopted remote work, for example, as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, this cost increases to an average of $4 million. If an organization falls victim to an attack, it can stand to lose an average of $1.52 million worth of business. So given that all of this is the threat landscape, let's now talk about the factors that increase cybersecurity risks in an organization. And these risks will have a direct impact on the kind of budget you need to spend on security as well. The first factor that affects security risk is a lack of a cybersecurity policy. This is a formal document that describes an organization's security controls and activities. All employees of an organization must abide by the rules of the security policy. Now here on this slide, you can see some of the policies that can make up your overall cybersecurity policy. So you've got things like an IT acceptable use policy, which will dictate how people in the organization can actually use any IT asset in the company. Then you've got the access control policy that will basically help you take decisions on who gets access to what resource at what times and for what purposes. You've got an incident response policy. So what really happens if an incident does take place? How does the company actually respond? Remote access policy, extremely relevant in the current times. So many people working from home right now. An email and social media policy, very self-explanatory. An IT security training policy is extremely critical as well. In fact, I would recommend that every employee in the company gets trained at least once every 6 months on the right IT security practices. And then finally, you've got a recovery policy. So let's say that an attack does take place. So how does the company recover from the attack? How does it disinfect itself or disinfect its network? So that's what the recovery policy is going to dictate. So if an organization does not have a cybersecurity policy that covers all of these different areas, that's the first thing they should allocate their budget for. Now, looking at this list, you can probably understand why this is so important. If these are not well defined, the risk is always going to be greater. The second factor that affects risk is a prevailing notion that compliance is equal to security, but this is never the case. If an organization complies with all the applicable regulatory standards, there is no way to say that it is also 100% secure. Compliance is just the bare minimum of what a company must do, but it's never really enough. It's always going to be better to treat the two, and I mean compliance and security separately when it comes to allocating funds. Organizations need to have a compliance program that ensures that they comply with all the laws and regulations that apply to them. Security planning should be a more proactive and comprehensive approach that minimizes the risk of a cyber attack. The third factor that affects risk is how an organization manages privileged access. It's extremely important to establish an environment of least privilege in which all users and applications get access only to those resources that they absolutely need to get their job done. Let's take an example of a hospital environment. In a hospital, a pediatric nurse may never need access to a patient record from the oncology department. So how does a company make sure that this happens all the time? Role-based access control systems and attribute-based access control systems may be deployed to do this effectively. And it's also imperative that every organization allocates some budget for this. The fourth risk factor is the type of valuable data assets that the organization actually holds. Every organization must know what data assets it holds. An IT risk assessment is the process by which a company identifies its data assets, establishes the business impact of having these data assets compromised. It also determines the threats that can likely cause a compromise. And a risk assessment can also basically help an organization identify the vulnerabilities that an attack vector can exploit. In case an organization is one of the market leaders and also from a very highly interconnected industry, the chances are high that it will be under significant threat from attackers. If an organization is working on some breakthrough research, the chances of an espionage or even an attack from a nation state cannot be ruled out. So the type and sensitivity of the data asset should be taken into account when developing an IT security strategy. From here, to make a decision about the capabilities you absolutely want in your security analytics solution, you need to perform a comprehensive risk assessment. Just about a minute ago, we spoke about this. The first step of a risk assessment is to identify all valuable data assets. Many companies would consider things such as client contact information, product design files, trade secrets, and roadmap documents as their most important assets. But regardless of the type of data companies identify as critical, it's necessary for them to understand how all of this critical data flows within their networks and identify which computers and servers are used to store this data. For smaller companies, the information about where all of this data is actually stored and also information about the computers and servers that actually make use of this data are available with the top executives. For larger companies, this information may be available with the person who heads each department. Once the data assets are identified, the corresponding negative financial impact of a compromise has to be estimated for each and every data asset. Apart from direct costs, the negative impact can also include intangible costs such as reputational damage and legal ramifications. The third step of a risk assessment is to determine threats to the data. A threat is anything that has the potential to cause harm to the valuable data assets of a business. The threats companies face include natural disasters, power failures, system failures, accidental insider actions, malicious insider actions, and malicious outsider actions. Step number 4, when it comes to a risk assessment, analyze vulnerabilities. A vulnerability is a weakness or a gap in a company's network. It could also be a gap in the systems, applications, or even processes which can be exploited. Now, vulnerabilities can be physical in nature, or they can also involve weak system configurations, or they can result from awareness issues such as untrained staff. Now, there are several scanning tools such as vulnerability scanners that are available for performing a thorough systems analysis and identify these vulnerabilities. Penetration testing or ethical hacking techniques could also be used to delve deeper and find vulnerabilities that regular scanning might miss. Finally, step number 5, when it comes to performing a risk assessment, establishing a risk management framework. Risk is a business construct, but it can be represented by this formula right here. Risk equals threat times vulnerability times business impact. To reduce the risk, IT teams and companies need to minimize the threats that they are exposed to, or they need to minimize the vulnerabilities that exist in their environments, or they can do a combination of both. That is, they can minimize both the threats and the vulnerabilities. From the business side of things, management may also decide to evaluate the business impact of each and every data asset and take measures to reduce it. A value of high, medium, or low should be assigned to each of these 3 variables, that is threat, vulnerabilities, and business impact. And then once a value of high, medium, or low has been assigned to each of these 3 variables, the risk can then be estimated as high, medium, or low as well. Now, when it comes to the business impact, even though we can assign a value of high, medium, or low, like we just discussed, it might make sense for you to actually arrive at a dollar figure instead of just using those variables of high, medium, or low. For doing this, you obviously need to make some assumptions and you need to use some financial models. And some of these models are available online and you can refer to them. Anyways, using this process, a company can prioritize which data asset risks it needs to address. After this is done, a company should come up with solutions or redressal for each and every identified risk and the associated cost for each solution. So at this point of time, I would like to take you over a particular spreadsheet on risk assessment. So just take a look at this spreadsheet here. It's a simple spreadsheet which will enable you to calculate the risk and prioritize the data assets that needs to be protected. Just take a look at this sheet right here. It shows you exactly what we discussed. And as you can see, this is a sample risk assessment for the marketing department. Likewise, this can be done for each department. The assumption here is there are 9 data assets that this department works with. For each data asset, the data owner needs to be identified first. This may or may not be the person who heads the department. After this is done, we need to identify clearly who are the users who need access to this data. And all of that has to be properly documented. And then what computers or servers store this particular data? Does this data need to flow outside the department? Here, a yes or a no answer might suffice. And then here in these 3 columns, that is column G, H, and I, this is where we estimate the negative financial impact in case of a breach, the threats, and the vulnerabilities. And like we discussed some time back, you could estimate it as high, medium, or low. But just for this particular variable, that is the negative financial impact in case of a breach, this particular variable, it might make sense to arrive at a more tangible dollar figure. Anyways, Using these three variables, you can then estimate the risk as high, medium, or low. Once this is done, you can arrive. So yeah, once this is done, you can arrive at a priority of the data asset to the organization. Usually, the asset with the highest risk will be the highest on priority as well. But what if there are multiple data assets which you have identified as being high risk? So you have identified that data asset 1 is high risk, data asset 2 is high risk, and data asset 3 is also high risk. So how do you then prioritize? One rule of thumb that you can then use is you can take a look at the negative financial impact in case of a breach, and you can look at the dollar figure that you've estimated here. And the data asset which has a higher negative financial impact is going to take the higher priority in that case. So once all of this is done, you may then arrive at a more refined list of data assets that you absolutely need to protect from cyber threats. And that's exactly what we have in this sheet right here. So let's assume that out of the 9 data assets that we identified earlier, here is a refined list of 5 data assets that we need to protect. And these are the highest priority of data assets. Now, the organization has to plan the ways in which it can do 4 things: prevention, detection, containment, and response. When it comes to prevention, you want to think about the solutions you can deploy to ward off any attack before it happens. These are things like firewalls, antivirus solutions, data leak prevention systems, and malware systems. You can also add multi-factor authentication here. Now, obviously, there is no way that you can prevent 100% of the attacks, and that is where detection comes into play. Detection is all about looking for the telltale signs of an attack. We can deploy a comprehensive SIM solution that has capabilities such as threat intelligence, anomaly detection, real-time alerting, correlation, search, and forensic analysis in order to do this. Detection is the main area that organizations need to spend their budget on. Then we have containment. This is all about how you can limit the adverse effects of a cyber attack. For example, imagine that a ransomware attack has taken place. How can the organization ensure that it doesn't spread to other systems in the network? Is there a way for you to configure workflows within your SIM solution so that you can log off or disable a compromised user account, shut down an infected machine, or kill a malicious process? Network segmentation is another thing that you could do to contain possible attacks from burrowing deeper into the network. So that's all about containment. Finally, you have response. You need to allocate funds to your incident response program. If an attack does take place, how do you clean it up and disinfect your network? Also, how do you get in touch with customers and employees and keep them updated about the attack and its repercussions? For each of prevention, detection, containment, and response, and for each of these 5 data assets, critical data assets, we need to then understand what security controls are in place at the current time. So that's what we have here. This is called the current state. And then also identify what the gaps are. The vulnerabilities that we identified earlier in our sample risk assessment can help us in identifying the gaps. And then from here, once the current state is identified and we also know what the gaps are, we can then make a decision on what investment is required. Where do we need to allocate our funds, and what security solutions do we need to get for our environment? So let's go back into the presentation. So here are some of the capabilities of a security platform that we may deem to be necessary after our risk analysis and gaps identification. Here, I will mainly touch upon the detection and containment capabilities. The first thing that you may want is a device discovery capability that enables you to discover devices across your environment automatically. This is going to be especially important if the organization is growing and new devices are added into the network frequently. As an example, this is how device discovery could work in a SIM solution. So let's quickly jump into the log management module of Log360. It's called Event Log Analyzer. And we'll just go over how device discovery can work in a possible SIM solution like this one right here. So in Log360, if you navigate over to settings, let me just quickly log on once again. Yeah, so if you navigate over to settings and then over to configuration and then into manage devices. As an example, let's go over how you can discover devices automatically by going into syslog devices and then go into add devices. Here you have the option of just entering the devices you want to monitor in this field right here. Or you can also discover devices automatically. And that is what this discover and add feature is going to help you with. Here, you just need to specify an IP range, and the solution will perform a scan of the network within that particular range and identify all the devices that fall within that range. Now, apart from automatic device discovery, you may also want a threat intelligence capability that helps you connect to external threat feeds and also alerts you whenever malicious traffic is seen on the network. In Log360, if you go over to threat management under configuration, you can see an example of a threat intelligence module here on this page. So you've got something called a default server, which is nothing but the global threat database that Log360 connects to. And this is going to help you with threat intelligence. Apart from this, you may also want to add your own threat feeds. And that is what you can do by going into add new server, keying in your credentials here, and then adding that server. So you can add a new threat feed right here and have Log360 connect to that threat feed and get all of that intelligence within it. Now, apart from this, there is also the option of advanced threat analytics. And this will enable you to get security analytics on a lot of different things. So let me just quickly show you some of the threat intelligence reports in Log360. So here I've just navigated into reports, go into threats, and then into threat analytics. Just take a look at this right here. So in this particular report, you get to see things like the reputation score, which can range from 0 to 100, the threat category, so whether it's a proxy threat, a phishing threat, or anything else. Then when you go into advanced threat analytics and you go into view, you get to see a lot of information about this particular threat. For example, you get geo information. So this particular malicious IP, it seems to have originated in the UK. And apart from that, in this particular report, you also get to see what the threat source is. So here's the malicious IP address that's been deemed to be a threat, and this is the device that it's attacking. So all of that information is right here for you. So this is all about threat intelligence. Some organizations may also want to invest in an anomaly detection solution that sets a benchmark behavior for every user and entity in the network. Anytime the user or the entity does an activity that deviates from this benchmark of expected behavior, it is tagged as an anomaly and a corresponding risk score will be increased. If the risk score increases to a level that is high for the organization, a real-time alert could then be scheduled. So that is what this particular feature in Log360 can do. As you can see, this is called Log360 UEBA, or User and Entity Behavior Analytics. This particular feature uses machine learning algorithms to see what's normal and what's not normal for every user and entity on the network. Another great capability when it comes to UEBA is the ability to have a timeline or chronology of events to understand the bigger picture of a possible attack. What really happened and at what time? What activities did a particular user do one after the other to trigger an event? For example, if you take a look at the anomaly detection module of Log360 right here and navigate over to the user's dashboard, you can see here that user 1 has the highest risk score of 56 in the entire network. Now, when you click on this user, you'll be able to see the exact sequence of events or exact sequence of anomalous activities performed by this particular user. Just take a look at this. So you can see that this user has performed several activities that were unexpected, all starting around this particular date. They first had multiple successful logon attempts. In fact, they had 102 such events when, in fact, the threshold is just 14. This was quickly followed by multiple file permission changes. Again, 102 events when the expected was just 14. Multiple system file changes, 102 events when it was just 14 that's expected. And then take a look at this. This is something that's really, really interesting. This user performed multiple file modifications. In fact, 204 such activities were detected as compared to a threshold of just 28. And by clicking here, you can go deeper and find out exactly what were those 204 sensitive files and folders that were modified by this user. Let's take a look at this. So by looking at this, you can quickly see what a potential attacker was up to and what were the files and folders that were modified by that potential attacker. Apart from this, there's also the capability to easily correlate actions from across the network and put together seemingly benign actions as part of a larger attack. This is another capability that's valuable and you may want to invest in that. And that's called the correlation capability. Effective incident management and incident response systems that make use of workflows and playbooks are things that can be looked at as well. This can ensure that the affected organization takes immediate action to minimize the effects of an attack. In Log 360, if you navigate over to the Alerts tab, and here you have more tools, and here you have workflows. And using the console right here, you can create your own workflow. So this workflow can be configured to execute each and every time a particular sequence of events happens. So in case there is a ransomware attack and you have configured a workflow to execute whenever a particular ransomware attack triggers, that can be done. So you're not waiting so that the ransomware gets executed and it spreads through the entire network. You can take action right then and there as soon as certain conditions are met. So likewise, there are other solutions that you may think are the best ways to address the security gaps that have been found. Obviously, it would be great to deploy all of these solutions. However, budget on the hand is usually limited. So we've got to work with benchmarks and financial models. So let's quickly go back into the presentation and discuss a financial model that we can probably work with. So here's a financial model that we could work with. Let me first introduce you to three terms. The single loss expectancy, or SLE, is the potential loss when a threat occurs just once. This is expressed as a dollar amount. Then there is the annual rate of occurrence, or ARO. This is the probability that this threat will occur in any given year. The annual loss expectancy, or ALE, is then just a product of the SLE and the ARO. This is the dollar amount that we can expect to lose every year because of this threat. So let's take a tangible example and apply this model right now. Earlier, we saw how an IBM study concluded that the cost of a data breach is $3.86 million. That is going to be our SLE. According to the same study, the chance of a data breach happening is 27.7%, and that is going to be our ARO. The ALE is then just going to be 3.86 million times 27.7%, and that's going to give us a value of close to $1 million. So that is going to be our expected loss from a cyber attack in any given year. So that is going to be our ALE. That's $1 million. Now, there is a model called the Gordon-Loeb model,
which then tells us that the optimal spend on cybersecurity should be 37% of the expected loss. So the expected loss is $1 million. We have calculated that. The Gordon Loeb model is going to tell us that the final investment on cybersecurity is going to be 37% of that, or $370,000. Now, this is just a ballpark figure and may not hold true for all organizations. Multiple other factors need to be considered as well. Another benchmark you can look at when arriving at your cybersecurity budget is through looking at the overall revenue, IT budget as a fraction of this revenue, and cybersecurity budget being a fraction of this IT budget. According to research by Deloitte, an organization's overall IT budget is 3.28% of total revenue. And 10% of the overall IT budget needs to be allocated towards IT security. Given that this is the case, if you take an example of a company with $100 million in annual revenue, it should spend approximately $3.28 million on IT and $328,000 on IT security. Now, obviously, all of these are just approximate ballpark numbers, only for the purpose of giving you some direction. Great. The final thing that I would like to talk to you about right now is the licensing and pricing of ManageEngine Log360. Log360 is a comprehensive SIEM solution from ManageEngine and can analyze logs at a speed of 25,000 logs every second. It can analyze logs from Active Directory, network devices like routers, switches, and firewalls, vulnerability scanners, and also cloud instances such as AWS and Azure. Just take a look at this page right here. Licensing details can also be found on this page. And approximate pricing details can be found here as well. The pricing of Log360 is mainly based on the number of log sources. So let me just quickly copy paste this URL on the chat right now, and you can access this at your convenience. So just give me a second here. Great. So that brings me to the end of this webinar. But before I let you go for the day, I do have a quick poll to run right now. So if you can take a quick moment to answer the question that's going to be launched on your screen, that'll be really, really great. So I've just quickly launched this poll right now. As you can see on your screen, there are two questions. How do you know ManageEngine Log360? And do you want our product specialist to assist you with a free evaluation of the solution? So if you can take a moment to answer these questions for me, that would be really nice. All right, thank you so much for those responses. And I have another poll to run right now, and this is going to be on the session feedback. So if you can give me some feedback on how this webinar experience went for you today, that'd be really great. We'll just take about 20 seconds for this. All right, thank you so much for those responses. And thanks also for being a great audience today. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to use the questions feature on your webinar panel. I'll still be around for the next 10 minutes taking all your questions. Thank you so much and have a great day.